And actually, funny enough, I've got a photo even. We've got a photo of us sat outside a little gîte kind of hut thing, drinking Bombay Sapphire and tonics, which is quite funny that, what should hand up in many, many years later. But actually, I think I've always poured Bombay Sapphire in all the bars I've ever worked in. Just, we just had a link with it, really.
Welcome to the Lush Life podcast. I'm your drinking companion, Susan Schwartz, and I bring you the how-to guide for living life one cocktail at a time. Thanks to my mother's love of martinis, the first words I spoke were shaken, not stirred, and I've been obsessed by cocktails ever since. Together, we'll learn from bartenders, brand ambassadors, distillers, and others why certain drinks are popular in certain cultures, how to make the perfect old-fashioned, when to shake and when to stir, and so much more. Hear that sound? It's time to cozy up to the bar and let the fun begin. Sam Carter, our guest today, almost left the business to flip houses. How sad that would have been for all of us. As senior ambassador for the Bombay Sapphire distillery at Laverstoke Mill, Sam has created some of their most iconic cocktails. Today he reveals the circuitous route it took him to get to Laverstoke. Your first job was in Rutland, right?
Yeah, well,
is that your first?
Not quite, actually.
Oh.
It goes a little bit before that. So
Yeah.
I actually went to a hotel management school, catering school in Stamford in Lincolnshire, as a 2-year BTEC course, and I just really loved it. When I left school, it was kind of like I didn't know really what I wanted to do, and you go to the college open days, and I had to look around, and I looked at the sports courses and the marketing and the bits and the bobs, and then I kind of moved around, and I thought, actually I went into the restaurant area and the catering department. I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to get into catering, eventually become maybe a restaurant manager, hotel manager, and then if it doesn't quite work out, go off and do something else. If that doesn't work out, it's something you can always fall back on. You can always be a waiter or a bartender anywhere in the world, right? It's a skill that you've got. And so I did that for a couple of years, and they kind of said that we should go off and get a part-time job.
So were you studying cooking?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And front of house, it was both. Mm-hmm. So I kind of trained to be a chef, so that's where my love for flavours comes from, and front of house. And I got a job in a little local Italian restaurant in Stamford.
Where's local?
So Stamford is in Lincolnshire.
Okay.
It's like the oldest town in England. It's got like 120 pubs, cobbled streets, 5 churches. Very idyllic. It's where they filmed Middlemarch. Beautiful, beautiful place. And so I got this job, part-time job, and worked there, which was fabulous. Really enjoyed it. There was no pizzas. It was like proper Italian food with a proper swearing Italian chef who's a legend. And at the end of that...
What were you doing there?
As a waiter and a bartender.
Okay.
But it wasn't cocktails by then. It was just mixed drinks, beers, non-alcoholic drinks, and wine, a lot of wine.
And were you drinking then? Like, did you have a favorite drink then?
This sounds really weird, but the most memorable drink, and this probably isn't great, it's not a great reflection of my career of drinking, but it was a Bitburger Drive, which is a non-alcoholic beer. Of course, when you're driving, you can't drink. So, but it was a really delicious non-alcoholic. I don't even know if they still sell it anymore, but it was a really delicious non-alcoholic beer. We'd occasionally have one of those. But I have a big passion for wine, so a lot of white wine, red wine. And at the end of the course, I got like a distinction in hotel catering management, and I was still working at this Italian restaurant part-time, and they offered me the job of like an assistant restaurant manager. And we opened up a little cafe downstairs, selling pastries and espressos, that kind of thing, to Stamford's elite. And I did that for about a year and a half, and then one day I remember this chap walks in, and Sean Hope, and he was a chef at the local Michelin star hotel restaurant, Hambleton Hall in Rutland. Mm-hmm. And I remembered his face because he came to a talk at the college when I was at college. And we got chatting, and I suppose I was getting itchy feet, wanted to further my career, get out of the small little town. And so then, I went and had an interview at the hotel and moved there and stayed in living accommodation. Took a huge pay cut to go there because been paid fairly okay, and because it was live-in and because it's that kind of environment of hotel tends to be maybe a little bit less money when you're out in the country. But I thought it'll help further come up my career.
Name, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I went there as a waiter, became a bartender, became a cheese sommelier, helped in being a wine sommelier, even helped park cars, you know.
So you were doing a little bit of everything. You weren't just like, okay, those drinks
taking people to their rooms. I went to learn the whole kind of trade, you know, go all over. And it was pretty cool, right? We got to drive some very fancy Aston Martins and Porsches and Ferraris and stuff, so that was pretty neat. That's where I probably got introduced to cocktails the first time. There was an awesome guy called Patrick William Bossy, who was the main head sommelier there, and sometimes he'd come in the bar and help with preparing cocktails for special guests, you know, to really make their stay even more special by giving them a special cocktail and maybe naming it after the guests, kind of thing, that sort of thing. And this really inspired me. I thought, actually, you know what, it is all about, this is the service industry. We're here to serve people, give people a great experience, introduce them to new things. And I thought, yeah, I could really dig this. And I was probably there like a year and a half, just through 2000. Obviously I had the millennium bug, you know, with that. And the owner of that place, Tim Hart, he just opened a new restaurant in Nottingham called Hart's, and it was in the old General Hospital. I was like, that sounds really cool as well. Actually, I come to the countryside, learnt this, but I could learn a whole lot more. And a friend of mine had started working there. So just after New Year's, I went and worked there in Nottingham.
Were you still in the restaurant part?
No, I in the bar bit then. So then I went to Hart's in the bar, just working as a bartender.
So really, it was that gentleman, Patrick, who
inspired me.
Completely
to get into cocktails.
All right, forget the back. I want the front.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Working in a kitchen is all well and good, but when I was training, I thought, you know what? Walls everywhere, no windows, someone shouting you in the kitchen, 17 hours a day. And I wasn't shy of working many hours. You know, we did 17, 18 hours days, 6 days a week at this 5-star hotel in Rutland. But I kind of like the idea of being outside or being in a room with windows and talking to people, you know, and also being creative. And I think that's what drew me towards the bar, because it was harder to be as creative as a waiter than it is to be a bartender making drinks, something physical to be creative with. So I went to Nottingham and worked in this place called Hart's. It's an old general hospital.
Were you a proper bartender then?
Yeah. And one of my colleagues, Dave Hemingway, who had worked at Hamilton, he then went to there at a similar time. But he left about 6 months later to go and open another restaurant. And so I just slid into that position of head bartender, or bar manager, I think it was called at the time. And so then that was it. I looked after the wines and looked after the cocktail menu. And I think that's really where my creativity blossomed.
Did you feel that you had the tools right then to start making new drinks? And I mean,
I think because I got brought up in the countryside, I was very passionate about seasonal things. And that I didn't want to use things out of season, because quite often they're more expensive, but also they're not that great quality. And I always like to use ingredients that are on our doorstep. So rather than bringing things over from a far off country and adding to the air miles, it was kind of seemed nicer to use stuff literally on your doorstep. So we kind of focused our menu around that, and also what we thought our customers would like. So you give some crowd pleasers on there, you know, like your mojito or cosmopolitan or martini, that kind of thing. But then you'd put some more unusual, obscure cocktails on there. I guess I must have been there for a couple of years, and a friend that had been working with me, he decided to go travelling. He was like, you know what, Sam, I'm going to go to Australia. I was like, what? I think I'd only ever been to like France and maybe Ibiza, you know, with the family, my life, but never been anywhere further. I thought, you know what, actually, if I don't do it now, I'll probably never do it. I was like, where do I sign up? You know,
well, before you traveled, hold on for a sec.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that inherently you knew to use the local produce around you.
Yeah.
When that's something that's so today, 15 years later, it's incredible that you had that instinct to do that.
Yeah, and I don't know if I would have labelled it as like sustainability back then, but I just thought it seemed to be the right thing to do, was like look after local producers and farmers and use their kind of produce. But also, it was cheaper because it was more local. And, you know, running a bar is a business, right? You want to produce really tasty drinks and not overcharge for them, be creative. So, yeah, if you can buy your ingredients cheaper, you can sell your cocktails cheaper. You know, it all kind of sits and makes sense. And so
but then you heard that call to travel.
Exactly. And so we planned this trip, and it was to basically fly over to Bangkok, spend a few days there, travelled down through Thailand, go to the islands, which was absolutely fascinating. Got introduced to Thai whiskey, which was interesting. I'm always happy to try new types of alcohol, and down through Malaysia, Singapore for a few weeks, and then
was this a pure pleasure trip?
Yeah. It was like
John.
just visas. Yeah, exactly. We just saved. We worked for like months saving up our money to go, because we knew we weren't going to work for a good while, and we'd spent quite a time getting our visas. Like for Australia, it was a year working visa. And
so you wanted to stay when you got there?
Yeah, well, it's only 1 year, but it was totally to stay. And we went to Bali because he had a friend there, and we stayed in his house and travelled around, and just got introduced to different cuisines, which was fascinating. And actually, funny enough, I've got a photo even. We've got a photo of us sat outside a little gîte kind of hut thing, drinking Bombay Sapphire and tonics. Which is quite funny that what should hand up in many years later. But actually, I think I've always poured Bombay Sapphire in all the bars I've ever worked in. Just we just had a link with it really, and eventually got to Australia, to Sydney. Really loved Sydney, incredible city, very cosmopolitan. Moved after like 10 days over to Melbourne, and I didn't quite have that same link with Melbourne as I did with Sydney. Like. Maybe it was the weather. It's always the weather, right? What do they say? Like Melbourne has all 4 seasons in one day. I'm sure, it's like they say England, it rains all the time, which actually it kind of does. But we were soon kind of running out of money, so we thought, right, we need to go and get a job. Now we're out here. We'd spent all the money that we'd already saved up.
Did you go back to Sydney?
No.
Or did you stay in Melbourne?
No, actually, we kind of went north of Melbourne. We went across to Adelaide, and then north of there, and we went to like Mildura. Picked tomatoes, we picked grapes, and then which was fascinating. Because I came from the country and I'd worked on friends' farms when I was like 10 years old. I kind of didn't mind that, driving combine harvesters and tractors and stuff. And then we met this chap who was trying to get some staff to pick cotton. But it's not like the old school way of picking cotton literally by hand. It was driving combine harvesters. So we had to suddenly, and it was really well paid. So we ended up taking this train from Mildura down to Adelaide all the way across to Sydney, which is like, I don't know, probably 3 lots of England across, and then up to Brisbane, and then out, and then the guy picked us up, and there was about a 7-hour journey in this ute, and it was, imagine halfway between Alice Springs and Brisbane. I mean, we were in the middle of nowhere, and we were a contractor working on these combine harvesters. So we'd work on a farm for a week and pick cotton. And
you were really hardy. Boy.
Yeah. Well, we slept in a swag, which is basically like a sleeping bag, and we'd have barbecues, and we'd
I thought you were going to tell me, and then I worked in a bar here, and I worked in a bar there.
Well, that's coming. Yeah.
You had enough of picking cotton.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I really enjoyed it. It was probably one of the best times of my life out there, because the people and the weather and just the hard work, and you feel like you're really achieving something. Like I'm a serious grafter. I don't mind putting in serious hours. And then we did that like for a couple of months. End up in a place called Dubbo, which is a bit north of Sydney, and then had to drive all the equipment back up to Brisbane where it was parked. And from Brisbane we went across to like Surfers Paradise, and enjoyed the East Coast basically.
So how long was this whole thing?
So that would have been the first kind of like 3-4 months of our time in Australia. Travelled up the East Coast with all the money that we'd just earned, and did all the usual totally usual backpacker stuff, right? All the stops. And funnily enough, we got to a place, went through Surfers, Airlie Beach, got to a place called Magnetic Island, and I met this girl. And
but when you say this is being recorded.
Yeah. She's now my wife.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I didn't know I was going to go there.
So, we were drawn together, right? Like a magnet. I know everyone thinks that. That story's a bit sickening.
It's just like you drinking Bombay everywhere.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Exactly. No, we met in this place, and we travelled up to Cairns together with my friend, and then we wanted to get a job in Cairns, and it just didn't quite work out. It's not quite as an affluent city back then as maybe Sydney. So we kind of took like a 48-hour bus ride from Cairns all the way down to Sydney, and Angela, this girl I just met, she went back home. She was English, and she went back home because she'd been travelling a couple of years and she was missing her family, but she was due to come back to Australia to finish off her 4-year visa. And so came to Sydney with barely any money. We literally we spent our last like $220 on this bus ride. Managed to get into a hostel, and within a week, we'd found a job at the Sydney Radisson Plaza Hotel on like Pitt Street and O'Connor Street, and I managed to get a job as a bartender and as a VIP host in like VIP bar on the 5th floor. So basically hosting people, cocktail, canapé parties. My friend Ross, who's an awesome guy, he was the waiter and worked in the bar as well downstairs. We had a whale time. We were there for 6 months, just really enjoying the Australian lifestyle.
Was it hard to come back?
Yeah, well, we had to because of the visa, right? But
that doesn't make it easy.
No, exactly. And after the year, like when we knew we had to leave, Ross went home, and I thought, actually, I've earned all this money, but I've not seen the whole of Australia. And I've been inspired so much by the cocktail culture over there because they were starting to get into like molecular mixology, that kind of thing. They still like their fun drinks, like the fruit tingle. I don't know if you've ever heard of one of those, fruit tingle, hilarious cocktail. But at the end of it, it's quite a sweet kind of fruity cocktail, but cocktails should be fun, right? And if that's what the guest wants, then cool. You can always inspire them to drink other things. But I ended up extending my visa for like 3 months, flying to Perth, travelling all the way up the west coast and across, and then down from the top through Alice Springs and round, and for the Melbourne Grand Prix, met back up with my wife, or girlfriend at the time, and then back to Sydney eventually. So yeah, I travelled another 3 months. And then it was like, literally, my visa's over. She had another couple of years. I got to go back.
Yeah.
And we can't even remember now, but we went to the travel agents to buy me a ticket to go home and kind of say our farewells. And we walked out of that shop with 2 tickets.
It was meant to be.
Yeah,
so where
exactly.
were those 2 tickets back to?
So they were back to England.
You're back to England.
She had a house in England, but we wanted to do a bit of travelling together. We'd not even, we'd only spent a few months living together, really. And we went back through Thailand and, Malaysia and all those kind of countries, which was pretty fun.
Did you know that you were going to come back to London?
Well, yeah, when I was travelling, I kind of enjoyed the Sydney life so much. And obviously, Sydney is a lot bigger than Nottingham. I mean, Nottingham's an awesome city. I always used to tell people it's like London, but it's got everything London has, but just slightly smaller. It's actually a little bit better. London's a little bit better. Love Sydney, and I thought, actually, I really want to do the London thing. And I'd heard that, Mr. Hart, who worked at Hamilton Hall and Hart's, his sons had just opened a restaurant in London called Fino on Charlotte Street. And I thought, that should be my first port of call. So I went in there. They'd been open like 2 weeks, and knocked on the door, and Eddie Hart opened the door, and he's a very extravagant, awesome character. And he welcomed me in because we'd worked at Hamilton before together and Hearts. And he was like, I was like, hey, have you got a job? I'll do anything. I'll mop the floors. I'll be a waiter. I'll be a bartender. I just need a job. I've just been travelling. I have no money. I need something. And I want to live in London. And he was like, you have literally been sent from heaven. Because he'd already gone through 2 bar managers in 2 weeks. It'd been really hard to find the right person. So I owe them a huge amount. They employed me, and they actually employed Angela. She worked on reception, and I worked on the bar. And we kind of cleared up the bar. We kind of got a whole new team in. Like we were about 5 or 8 people. Well, 5 at the start. New team of bartenders. We had two bars, one upstairs and one down on the eating bar, where you could actually eat your. It was a Spanish tapas bar, but real premium Spanish tapas. Where we did lots of sherries by the glass, like 30 odd sherries by the glass, wine by the glass, awesome tapas food. And then Sam Hart, he bought me the El Bulli book. It's about like 600 pages, all in Spanish back then, because it was like a first edition. And I was kind of looking through it and inspired by all these pictures in the book. I was like, this is incredible, like food pictures. It was like food porn. And then cocktail pictures as well. And you got these pictures in real fancy glasses, but with like foams and caviars and all sorts of things.
Do you remember what year
top.
This was?
This would have been 2003, right. I think, 2003. So that kind of really inspired me. And my Angela, my wife, who they're married for future Liz, she got a Spanish to English dictionary and kind of went through all the recipes one by one and writing them out for me, translating them. And basically just went and bought the equipment and replicated the drinks. Exactly, just to see what the methods were like, making these nitrous oxide foams and caviar.
Because that's a lot of equipment to make some of those things.
Yeah, exactly, and expensive as well. And the guy supported me, And we did hot, cold drinks, and we did.
So you brought them right into the restaurant.
Yeah. And so we created this brand new kind of cocktail menu with all these kind of, I like to call it kind of Heston Blumenthal style drinks, that sort of molecular mixology or multi-sensory experience to people. People drinking, we did a martini trolley, very much like they do at the Connaught with Aggo, where we had like 20 gins and 20 vodkas all kept in the freezer at like minus 18, 20 degrees C. We used via vermouth from California. We had this trolley, we'd take a glass out of the freezer, put it on the guest table, and then just spritz the vermouth in the air and waft the glass through the vermouth. And
how did the
so that was a really dry
clients
martini, right?
React to it? Did they love it?
I think they loved it because it was a brand new restaurant, and from day one it was busy as anything. Every lunch, every dinner packed out. There was a big kind of
and you thought there's something to this.
Yeah, exactly. And people really because of where it was in Fitzrovia, people go out for lunch a lot and work lunches, and they want a little bit of an experience. So yeah, to have someone come over, it was all dressed to the nines, and I was in Oswald Boating suits and stuff, like bling, orange lining, seriously cool suits, and you come over and spritz this and pour in the gin, and I suppose that's where that passion for gin really came through as well. And people have their martinis,
right?
And then
because so many
Spanish
cocktails. Drink gin. I mean, it's
exactly.
the number one market, right?
Yeah. There's that, and then obviously El Bulli being Spanish in the restaurant, and so we did the foams, and we would have eight or nine foams on the menu at any one time, from like a nitrous oxide cigar foam, or we'd do like I remember we did like a Bombay Sapphire kind of mojito, so like Bombay, lime, sugar, mint shaken in a martini glass, but then we'd do like a nitrous oxide mango foam, a spuma. We used to call them spumas. But then, it was just kind of fun, and training and inspiring other people to make the cocktails alongside me was really cool as well. I love talking to people and training people, being neat and tidy in their work ethic as well, and serving people, and that's what it's about, right? The service industry. So I had a whale of a time, basically.
Is that when Bombay Sapphire came calling?
No. We've got a few more years yet, I'm afraid.
Don't be afraid. No, it's great.
Yeah, I loved Soho, loved that whole area, and I think I probably spent a lot of time working and maybe didn't go out as much as I probably should have done, and really worked crazy hard. And my wife, Angela, was like working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and I was doing the evenings and the weekends, so we didn't see each other as much. And we thought, actually, we need to get out of this rat race after a few years, maybe it was 3-4 years. So my family were up in Nottingham by then, so we moved up to Nottingham. And,
so you left the rat race?
Yeah, I left rat race, and I thought, you know what, I'm done with catering. I'm going to go into, because I watched those programs on TV, like with Sarah Beanie, the house renovation programs.
Oh boy.
And there's basically like, hey, buy a house and then spend a bit of money
and
flip it, exactly, and you'll make a ton of money. It didn't work out. So we bought a house. We lived in it for a little while to try and figure out how we're going to do it, and then we did the work, and we enjoyed the house for about 4 years. And
so you didn't flip the flip here?
No, exactly. The one we were meant to flip, we just lived in it because we kind of fell in love with it and loved it and loved the lifestyle.
How long did it take you to realize, wait a second, I want to be behind that bar again?
Well, 6 months. Because we got up there and it was like Christmas time, and the chap, Dave Hemingway, who had originally worked with at Hearts, he was then running this place called World Service, and he was like, I'm a bit short staffed for Christmas time, do you reckon you come in and do a few shifts with us? I was like, yeah, sure, I need a bit of money coming in, that'd be really cool. So I did that through Christmas, and then January he goes and gets another job, and they're left without a bar manager, and so
so you were sucked in. It was like the mafia.
I was sucked straight back in. So then I became the bar manager.
But you can't ever.
But I kind of worked with Dan Lindsay, who was the owner of the place, to kind of agree some kind of pretty good terms on the hours that I worked, the shifts kind of that I worked. So I do like 3-4 days a week and have like 3 days off a week, which is really nice. Time spent with Angela. So I worked there for 4 years.
Oh boy!
And
did you ever hear the calling of London? Come back, come back.
A little bit, because I go down there for like cocktail competitions, like Bacardi Legacy competition, where friends were doing, or like Diageo's World Class.
So your toe was still in the whole world of.
And I brought back all that kind of molecular stuff. We did really cool, interesting drinks on the bar then, and London and Nottingham just lapped it up. They loved it at World Service. They loved all these cool drinks, and I threw myself into the wine list. Ended up like earning ourselves best wine list of the in the country for the size of the restaurant we were in, the AA thing, which was really cool. And I went to support a friend, Sam Dean, at the very first Bacardi Legacy competition down in London. So I went down there, carry his bag in for him, watch him, support him. And I remember walking into this venue and I saw Alex Turner and Alex Cameling. And Alex, who worked for Bacardi and the advocacy side of things, and actually saw him earlier today, but he said, Sam, I've been dying to speak to you, because I've known Alex for many, many years, and he loved, I think, everything I was doing with molecular mixology when I was in Pheno before. I said, I've got a job for you, but I've got to dash off for an hour. I've got a meeting, but I'll come back and we'll chat. I was like, what? So I went and got a drink, talked to the other competitors, and just kind of fell into it. And Alex came back and said, hey, you know what? I'd really like you to be the ambassador for Bombay Sapphire. And I was kind of, in my head, I was
and
like...
you were just there supporting your friend, right?
Yeah, at this Bacardi event.
Right.
And in my head, I was like, what is an ambassador? Because it wasn't really that common thing. This was like, I suppose this is late 2008, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I was like that. So I got home the next day, Googled it. Yeah, what's an ambassador? Okay, like you're the face of a brand. And so I did an interview with the people at Bombay, Helen Francis and Alex, and had to pitch up and demonstrate drinks and talk about something that I was passionate with, and absolutely really loved it, and they loved me. After I think they'd interviewed a few other people, but I had to move back down to London, so it was like a yo-yo, right? Nottingham, London, and
but you knew this was a chance you couldn't refuse,
and
right?
I think it was because I'd just got married 6 months earlier to Angela in Nottingham, and she was 95 hours nights, and we thought, well, do I want to be doing these nights and weekends when I'm like 50, 60 years old? I need to get myself into more of a normal kind of job and something a bit more bit different, and see another part of the industry. So we actually lived apart for 6 months, which is weird, get married and then live apart for 6 months. So I lived in her house that she had in London, and she lived up in our house in Nottingham. And
so you weren't in Laverstoke yet?
No. Mm-hmm. That was a few, 3 or 4 years before that. Mm-hmm. And really enjoyed being the ambassador for Bombay Sapphire, doing pop-up bars, working with the team, consumer events, hosting people in our botanical locations in like Morocco and Italy and Spain, helping to host our global competition, which is our world's most imaginative bartender competition with Raj Nagra, who's our global ambassador. Just having a whale of a time, right? Talking about gin and consuming a little bit of gin, and just inspiring people the whys and the wheres and the mixability of it as a product.
And it was great that you had already used it.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time.
From our whole career, right? And we did the very first project I had, and that's what I moved down for, was a pop-up bar at Somerset House. I don't know if you've ever been, but it's where they do like the film 4 screenings in the summer, and then they do ice skating in the winter. And we did this. We worked with Tom Dixon, who's a very iconic, famous kind of British architect, and we did a pop-up bar right there.
Yeah, a furniture designer.
Yeah, exactly. Right on the veranda of the Somerset House. And we had that for 5 months. We probably hosted about 25,000 people in 5 months, which was pretty insane.
Did you have to make any drinks specifically for it?
Oh, yeah. We did the whole menu. And actually all the drinks were paired around all the botanicals in Bombay and the countries that they come from. So it was very much pairing. We paired that with food. And every day, every night would be welcoming guests to the venue, which is really cool. And as a pop-up, these things don't last forever. So it finished in like the October time. And I was kind of thinking, is this just going to be a short-term job? Is it going to continue? And fortunately, Bacardi and Bombay people loved me, and they took me under their wing. And I went and worked with a guy called Will Bricks at Vinopolis, which is where we had the Bombay Sapphire Blue Rooms at Vinopolis, which is a pretty cool space.
On South Bank.
Yeah, exactly. And we'd had that place for about 10 years and hosted about 100,000 people a year, consumers round the tour there, to learn about wine and whiskey and champagne. And at the end of the tour, you get to learn about gin. And it was a pretty cool space, but little did I know in the back realms of the organisation of the company, they were thinking we would eventually like to have a place where we make our gin and also we talk about it in the same place, like bring the two together, because back then, this was like 2012, we were made in the north of England, in Warrington, and we were talking about it in London, so the two weren't together. And a guy.
So there was no place anyone could go and visit, really.
Apart from Vinopolis, like you had that,
right.
and we hosted the trade there, and we hosted consumers there. But we had a model of the still. We had the botanicals, but a model, and it just didn't seem perfectly genuine, and we wanted to bring the two together. And there's this awesome guy called John Burke, who's now our CMO, and he lives in a place called Overton, out in Hampshire, and he had the vision to buy Laverstoke Mill, which is an old paper mill, and basically turn it into a very sustainable gin distillery, where every single drop of Bombay Sapphire is made for the entire world in an incredibly sustainable way. So much so we are the most environmentally friendly distillery in the world. So Bacardi bought the site, spent a few years getting planning permission, worked with Thomas Heatherwick Studios to put the glass houses in, because we kind of thought sometimes not everybody knows what goes into gin. They don't always realise that, certainly in the case of a London dry gin, it's all natural ingredients. So let's grow these botanicals in the glass house to demonstrate how they grow in their natural environment. So we worked with Thomas, did the 2 glass houses that you've seen, and then we opened...
It is an incredible place to visit.
Thank you.
It is.
It's a big labour of love from the whole company. There's probably like 1,000 builders, local builders, that we used to create that space, and we took 2.5 years to renovate. We opened on the 1st of October 2014, which seems a time ago now.
Well, what was your role in it?
So my role, I moved out of London then to move to Hampshire with the family, and changed my job role slightly to be the senior brand ambassador, to basically help set up the place from scratch. So really from just 2 of us, Will Bricks and myself, to help set up all the systems in place and design the place and get all the fit out done, to then open it. And now we're 55 people, and we've been open 3 years as of last night, because we had our 3rd birthday party last night.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much, which was a great affair. And now, we're 55 people now, and we host a lot of people there. We've hosted, 65,000 people in the first year, 84,000 people last year, and nearly 100,000 people we're aiming for this year.
That's fantastic.
Which, not that it's about numbers, but considering we're 60 miles west of London, it's phenomenal that so many people want to come out and actually learn about gin and botanicals and design. But I think it shows you how strong that passion for gin is right now. That there's so many new gin brands coming on the market, right? So it's quite a competitive place, and you've just got to go above and beyond to try and give the consumer and also the trade a really excellent experience.
I assume that you created drinks for the bar there.
Absolutely, yeah. So we change the menu every 6 months.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we try and use local ingredients as well we possibly can, and inspire consumers to be able to replicate that drink at home. And I think the drink I'm probably most proud of is a drink called the Laverstoke, so obviously after the name Laverstoke Mill. It's called Laverstoke, and it's got 2 lime wedges squeezed into a big balloon glass, a little bit of elderflower cordial, or you could use Saint-Germain elderflower liqueur, of course, Martini Bianco if it's spring, Rosato in the summer, extra dry in the autumn, and Rosso in the winter. So you can actually twist it out with the seasons.
It's
every 3 months, which is quite nice. Either a single or a double measure of the gin. Swirl it around, add loads of ice, and top it with something like a premium ginger ale, like Fever Tree's ginger ale. Works really, really well. And then a spanked mint sprig and a ginger slice.
That'll have to be our cocktail of the week, definitely.
Oh, totally. It's my favourite, and I think you kind of really enjoyed it.
I have to say I did. I have tried it before.
It's a very agreeable drink. I think because Bombay's kind of got 5 main flavours to it. It's got pine, citrus, root, floral, and spice, and the ingredients we put in there emphasise all those 5 ingredients. But they're not too obscure ingredients, right? Anybody could walk into a bar and be able to order that drink, because most bars stock all those ingredients. Plus, a consumer could go into a supermarket and buy them and make it at home. And that's kind of the idea, right? Of a distillery that opens its doors to the general public, is to inspire people to make these drinks at home and have fun with it. That's probably one of the most key things.
But will you make one for me now?
100%. I would love to be.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
My absolute pleasure.
All right. Can't wait to try it. Thanks to Sam for taking the time to sit down with me, and also to show me around the Bombay Sapphire distillery. Details of that tour will be in an upcoming Lush guide. As you heard, the Laverstoke is our cocktail of the week. It's easy to make once you have all the ingredients. Squeeze 2 freshly cut lime wedges into a clean glass and then drop them in. Measure and pour into the glass over the lime. 10 mLs of bottle green elderflower cordial, then 15 mLs of Martini and Rosé Bianco vermouth, and then the 50 mLs of Bombay Sapphire gin. Swirl well to mix. Fill the glass completely full of good quality cubed ice and briefly stir with a bar spoon to chill. Finally, pour 100 mLs of Fever Tree ginger ale down a twisted bar spoon into the spoon end over the ice and gently stir in the cocktail at the same time. Garnish with a slither of freshly mandolin ginger and a large, gently slapped mint sprig all grouped together on one side of the glass. Enjoy the aroma, and you don't need any straw. This and all the recipes you hear on the podcast can be found at alushlifemanual.com, where you'll also find all the ingredients in our shop. On the next episode, our guest tells us how he made it to London from Italy 40 years ago and stayed in one place the whole time. We meet with Gino Nardella, the Stafford Hotel's master sommelier. Until next time, bottoms up. Thanks for listening to the Lush Life podcast, the sister of A Lush Life Manual. For more information and links to everything you heard, plus a bit more, please visit alushlifemanual.com. Always remember the wise words of Oscar Wilde. All things in moderation, including moderation. And always drink responsibly. Okay, I said that last part. Theme music is by Steven Shapiro and used with permission. Lush Life is produced by Evo Terra, and I'm your hostess, Susan Schwartz. I'll see you at the bar.